The Word of God, Becoming Familiar with Jesus Christ, Part 3. Third set of books of history cover the United Kingdom period. The saying to remember here is the beginnings of the double books. The United Kingdom period is made up of 5 books, with 1 Kings being broken into 2 periods of history, as is 2nd Book of Chronicles. We begin with 1 Samuel, and that is followed by 2 Samuel, and that is again followed by first half of 1 Kings, chapters 1 through 11 only. Then 1 Chronicles, and finally the first 9 chapters of 2 Chronicles, basically the first quarter of the book. This period encompasses the first 3 kings of Israel, the reigns of Saul starting about 1050 BC, followed by David in 1010 BC, and David's son Solomon in 970 BC. The order slightly differs here from the flow of the books. The order in the Holy Bible is 1 Samuel, then 2 Samuel, and that's followed by 1 Kings and 2 Kings, and finally 1 Chronicles and 2 Chronicles. Our contention is that if you know the flow of the books, you will know the order as well. First book in this section is 1 Samuel. It is about 1050 BC, and the Israelites are clamoring for a king so that they can be like the nations around them. Not content to have God as their king, so God has Samuel anoint Saul as their first king. However, Saul is not a man after God's heart. And because of his disposition towards God, God informs him through Samuel that he will have his throne ripped from him and his family. Samuel then anoints a shepherd boy named David to be the next king. David soon endears himself to the Israelites by slaying Goliath and soon becomes a great military leader for Saul. David's exploits soon enrage Saul with jealousy and envy, and this book ultimately ends with the death of Saul in 1010 BC. 2 Samuel is about the time of David's reign as king. With division among the tribes of Israel over who is to be the next king, David reigns over Judah only after Saul's death in 1010 BC. With Nathan the prophet as his counsel, David becomes king of all of Israel in 1003 BC. He reigns as king was about 40 years in total. David's character is shown to be wholehearted towards God, yet his sinful nature is displayed in this book, both the good and bad parts of his life. His personal relationship with God and a repentant heart give rise to the prosperity of the nation of Israel. His sinful nature shows God's mercy and patience. Yet consequences do result from his disobedient actions. Family strife happens throughout the latter part of his reign, causing much heartfelt pain for David. This book is broken up in regards to the flow of scriptures because the first half of chapters 1 through 11 is about the third king of Israel, Solomon. The latter half, chapters 12 through 22, are about a later period, the split of the nation into Israel and Judah. So, again, once you understand the flow of the scriptures, you will know the order of the books as well. The first half of this book, the book of 1 Kings, begins with the death of David in 970 BC. And the establishment of his son Solomon as the next king. The zenith of the Israelite nation unfolds. However, due to the intermarrying and the idolatrous nature of his many wives, Solomon's heart becomes half-hearted towards God. That idolatry which will ultimately cause the demise and division of the nation upon his death. The building of God's temple takes place, with Elijah's ministry taking place at this time. Solomon's reign lasts about 40 years, as does his predecessors before, ending with his death in 930 BC. 1 Chronicles begins with a detailed account of the genealogic record from Adam to David. This book is much more of an editorial account of King David's reign over Israel. It does not bring light to the struggles of David, like in 2 Samuel, but focuses more on his love for God and the importance of obeying the law of God. Widely considered to be written by Ezra later, this explains the preparation by David for the return of the Ark of the Covenant, the building of the temple, and the worship associated with it. It basically goes over David's work for God during his reign as king. This book again ends with the death of David in 970 BC. The beginning part of 2 Chronicles, chapters 1 through 9 only, is about King Solomon. He is considered the wisest man to have ever lived. God gifted him with wisdom in the beginning of this book. The building of the temple and the dedication of the temple and the Ark of the Covenant take place here. Queen of Sheba visits Solomon here as well, and it ends with the death of Solomon in 930 BC. The time frame spans more than 170 years from the birth of the prophet Samuel to the death of King Solomon in 930 BC. Remember the beginning of the double books. This section begins with 1 Samuel, followed by 2 Samuel, the first half of 1 Kings, chapters 1 through 11, and 1 Chronicles, and finally the first quarter of 2 Chronicles, chapters 1 through 9. Now let's go over all the books to this point, starting with Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, Joshua, Judges, Ruth, 1 Samuel, 2 Samuel, first half of 1 Kings, 1 Chronicles, and finally 2 Chronicles, chapters 1 through 9. These two books are the only books that are actually broken up. This is done so that you will know where to find people, places, and events in the Bible. Pause here, take your worksheet, and fill out the corresponding page that goes to this section, and then follow to the next section.